Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sack Race Weekly. This is episode 8 and once again we're going to focus on Derby. They're still searching for a new manager. Steve McClaren is back but not as manager. We're going to look at what his appointment means for the likes of Wayne Rooney or John Terry getting the job. We then move on to Shrewsbury Town, who of course sacked Sam Ricketts this week. Who will they appoint as their new manager? Could it be Harshest? Could it be Nigel Pearson? We'll run through all the list of candidates and then finally we move on to the viewers' questions. But guys, please, if you do like the video, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe if you haven't already, and check out thesackrace.com. Right, Simon, there's only one place to start. Steve McClaren is back at Derby for the 5th time, but not as manager, as technical director / advisor. What does his appointment in this new role mean for Derby's chances of perhaps appointing a young boss, a rookie boss, inexperienced, maybe John Terry or Wayne Rooney?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a train of thought to that thinking. Obviously, he's been there, is it 5 times now, Steve McClaren, in various roles at Derby. He's done almost everything. Now he's in this new role and he can oversee a young new manager. That's what it looks likely to happen. And John Terry, perhaps, I'm not sure it'll be Wayne Rooney after recent results, but McClaren, give him his due. There's not many people about who know Derby County like Steve McClaren. He's done everything. He's got the experience. This is a former England manager, let's not forget. Managed at the very highest level in football. He's done everything. He's got so much experience and hopefully he can take this into this new role with Derby and really move things forward and help a new manager, whether it be a young, inexperienced one or an experienced boss.
We've seen loads of favourites for the job over the last few days. We've got Wayne Rooney, he's drifted slightly to 4-1, but John Terry's the odds-on favourite. Big Sam 5-1. Eddie Howe, who was selling himself on Monday Night Football, he's 12-1, whilst Rafa out to 16-1 now. That looks quite unlikely. But let's focus on John Terry. Why would he be a good manager?
Well, I think his experience at the top level of football counts for something. We saw it with Gerrard and Lampard. I think the experience he's built up with Dean Smith is pretty much invaluable. Look what Dean Smith's done. He's such an exceptional manager in the Premier League, certainly one of the top 10 in my opinion. I think John Terry's learnt a lot from him. Obviously, defensive-wise, there's not been much better than him in English football this century, really, has there? So he certainly knows a lot about defending. He's learnt a lot about coaching under Dean Smith. I'm sure he's got a few exciting new ideas of his own. So I'd like to see him given a job. I'm still not convinced Derby at the bottom of the Championship is the perfect job for him. Perhaps he can't be picky at this time.
He's proved to be thick-skinned, resilient. He's got leadership qualities, football intelligence, which are characteristics and traits you need to be a good manager. He has, of course, managed under Mourinho, Ancelotti, Conte, McClaren himself, loads of England managers. Of course, that doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a good manager, but surely he's got some nuggets of information from those bosses. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens in this one. Hopefully that an appointment will come soon because Derby in shocking form. But Simon, if they do look elsewhere, have you got any long shots for us?
I think the long shot that still piques my interest and tickles my fancy is still Slavisa Jokanovic. I know he's managing out in Qatar at the moment with Al Gharafa, I think it is. It's not that exciting a job. I know he's getting paid a decent amount of money, but for Championship managers in recent years, when you look around at who you want in charge of your club, he's in the top 2 or 3, isn't he? I mean, promotion with Watford and promotion with Fulham. He's done an exceptional job everywhere he's been in the Championship. And I think if Derby can get their hands on him with this new influx of money that's coming in, with this takeover that's coming in, and he can be the big name to not only take them away from danger, but really build a promotion mount to the Premier League, which is what they've been desperate for at Derby for like the last decade or so, just missing out under so many managers. Jokanovic, I think, if he comes in as a long shot, he's going to be hard to tempt to the bottom of the Championship with his cushy job in Qatar. But if they can do it, it'll be an exceptional appointment. And Jack, who would be your outside pick?
Well, firstly, dazzling football. I mean, it would be brilliant if he can replicate what he did at Fulham. He's 25-1, as is Lee Johnson, who's just not being mentioned. We've seen Paul Cook, the Cowleys, but Johnson has 4 or 5 years of Championship experience. He gradually improved Bristol City each year. Yes, they had their losing streaks, but they also had their massive winning streaks. He beat Jose Mourinho in the Cup. He took Pep all the way. I think we should have some respect on Lee Johnson. 25-1, as is Chris Davis, the Leicester City assistant, who I've seen mentioned a little bit on Twitter, so keep an eye on that one as well. Section 2, Shrewsbury Town have become the 11th EFL club to change manager this season. Sam Ricketts has gone. The club are 23rd in the league and have only won 1 game all season. Simon, was this too much of a surprise, this one, when Sam Ricketts left?
No, I don't think it was. Results haven't been good enough for Shrewsbury on the pitch. I think they've been conceding so many goals this season, but Ricketts never really got going as a manager at Shrewsbury. He was young and exciting. Obviously, I think this was his first major first-team job in football, and it's a big job for him to take on, but it never really worked out for him. They played really good football at times, but in terms of results, those are what matters in this business, and it just didn't quite pan out for him. I think Shrewsbury might be looking to someone a little bit more experienced for their next appointment.
We've got former boss Paul Harshest as the early favourite, Paul Cook 6-1, Steve Cottle 6-1, Simon Grayson and Graham Alexander around the 10 to 12-1 mark as well. Surely this one has Paul Harshest a return written all over it.
Yeah, it does seem the most likely. I think the odds are pretty spot on there, but actually my pick, I think, would be Graham Alexander for this job. I think obviously he got sacked at Salford earlier this season, perhaps a bit harshly, and he's got experience in the Football League. So I think Shrewsbury, if they can get their hands on Graham Alexander, he'd be a pretty sensible appointment. But as you say, Paul Harshest, been there and done it, I think he's probably the front runner for the job at this stage.
I imagine fans a little bit split because he did such a good job there in 2 years. He led them from the relegation zone to the playoffs in a couple of seasons. He did, of course, ditch them for Ipswich. I don't think too many people can blame him for that. He was going up to the Championship with a big club. But, I mean, he's available now. He didn't do well there, of course, and Scunthorpe either. But we see Nathan Jones go back to Luton, and look how well he's doing there. They're flying in the table.
Sometimes managers going back to clubs just seems to work, whether it's the people they have in place, the staff they know, the local area. It can be something as small as that. Sometimes managers and clubs just work together, and it seems like Paul Harshest and Shrewsbury is a really nice match. As you mentioned, he went to Ipswich, it didn't quite work out, but Nathan Jones at Luton as well, Mark Robbins at Coventry. There's just managers who seem to fail elsewhere, that when they're at your club or at a club, particularly Shrewsbury and Paul Harshest, it could work. So I think Harshest will get this job. Speaking
of going back, a name at 25-1 is former Shrewsbury player Nigel Pearson. We've seen him linked with a return to Sheffield Wednesday, a return to Derby, now a return to Shrewsbury. Could this one happen?
I mean, it could happen. Anything can happen. It's 2020. Why can't Nigel Pearson manage Shrewsbury Town? So yeah, he's obviously the man with all the experience, all the top flight experience, Premier League. He's been in the Championship. Would he go down to Shrewsbury? I'm not too sure how much of a connection he has with that club. I know he played for them. Would he like to go back and manage them? I think he'd probably be looking at a higher placed job.
We've also seen Paul Heckingbottom in the mix of 14-1, Nigel Atkins, Danny Cowley, plenty of names, but it is early doors. It's been less than 24 hours since he departed, so check out thesatrace.com for that one. Right guys, viewers' questions. We're going to start with Jack Goodwin. He's come up with a cracker. What's the harshest sacking of recent memory? Just to narrow this one down a little bit, Premier League wise, Nigel Pearson I thought was pretty savage last season. He left just before they ended up being relegated. I thought he deserved a chance to at least attempt to keep them up in those last couple of games. We also saw Mauricio Pochettino last season. Was that one rather harsh? You'd argue potentially no now because Jose Mourinho is flying with them. Other ones, Dina Maria Oldham, I thought that was pretty unlucky. Jack Ross, you could debate at Sunderland. He hardly lost any games there. Excuse me. And Darren Moore as well at West Brom. But my pick is Julian Lopetegui at Spain. It was the eve of the World Cup. He had never lost a game. 20 games unbeaten. Yes, he did sort of go behind their back and seal a contract with Real Madrid for the next season. But to sack him just before a tournament, I thought was shocking. Simon, what's yours?
Well, I've looked a little bit more recently than that. From this season, I think so far, maybe Graham Alexander at Salford, given the job he'd been doing there. I think from last season, the end of last season, Danny Cowley at Huddersfield came into the club when they were struggling in the relegation zone and did what was asked of him, kept them up, and was savagely sacked at the end of the season and replaced. Huddersfield doing okay this season, but I don't think it was a great decision from the board. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think the most iconic sacking live on air on the BBC was Gus Poyet at Brighton and Hove Albion. Do you remember that? After the playoff defeat to Crystal Palace, he was on air covering a Confederations Cup game on the BBC and he was handed a bit of paper telling him he was sacked. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. So in terms of the actual sacking itself, I think Gus Poyet was the most shocking because you don't expect to see someone lose their job when you're watching a football match.
Now on to question 2 from Joe Bagworth. Joe said, which up-and-coming Championship manager do you think has the best credentials and the most potential to step up into the Premier League with success? Well, Joe, my personal pick would be Steve Cooper at Swansea. He's done a terrific job there. They've got into the playoffs last season. They're currently in the top 6 this season. It's been a brilliant start. I think there's so much potential. He's got his whole future ahead of him. Can he replicate what Graham Potter has done in the Premier League with Brighton? He, of course, left Swansea for that role. We'll have to wait and see, but I think he's got an excellent chance of leading them to promotion, and we'll see where that one goes. Do you agree, Simon?
It's the right answer, Steve Cooper, but I'm going to talk about Thomas Frank at Brentford instead, because if you look at what he's done to that club, I know they've been building and that club is in a very good place at the moment, but even this season they're on the edge of the playoffs. They've sold Ollie Watkins, they've sold Ben Rama. He keeps bringing these players through, they keep succeeding, they play absolutely wonderful football. In my opinion, they play the best football in the Championship. They're the best team to watch. They're so exciting, and he is just a brilliant manager. I know he rubs a few people up the wrong way with post-match comments, interviews, but that just brings a bit of edge to him, I think, and in the Premier League I think he'd be a real hit. He won a youth tournament with England, he's been absolutely exceptional, he's won a World Cup, he's doing really well with Swansea. Obviously they managed to sneak into the playoffs last season, he's done so well. I think they'll be in the playoffs again this season.
Right, the third question is from Gab Sutton, friend of the Sack Race and freelancer for the Sack Race. Gab said, will we rue writing off Wild Things Wycombe Wanderers? Now by we, I think he means pretty much everyone. And the man he's talking about is, of course, Gareth Ainsworth. We absolutely love him here at the Sack Race. He's done such a good job there. But he endured a very tough start to life in the Championship. They lost their first 7 games. But now he's picked up form and he's got them playing well again. And they're picking up points on the board. And it's great to see. Simon, were you one of the people that wrote him off?
In my pre-season predictions in the Championship, I put Wycombe to finish 22nd and just get relegated. So I don't think I completely wrote them off. I think that's 2 places higher than most people had them finishing this season. But it didn't look good for them after the first 7 games. But some of the results they've been getting recently just show what Wycombe and Gareth Ainsworth in particular is all about. A draw against Brentford, who I've just mentioned, one of the strongest sides in the division. They're roughing teams up. I think they got a point against Watford as well. They don't mess about. They get it forward. They really rough teams up. And Gareth Ainsworth has got this group of players which, let's be frank, aren't good enough for the Championship on paper. And he's got them really battling for every point and they're causing teams a lot of problems this season. I think they'll come really close to staying up. I'm not sure they'll quite do it, but I think they're going to really go for it, and I don't think they'll finish bottom. If you look at the job he's done at Wycombe, I think if he keeps them up this season, it'll be his greatest achievement so far, even surpassing what he did last season and getting them promoted when they were one of the favourites for relegation. Could he be in the Premier League? I still don't know if he's fashionable enough. I think he'll have to take a bigger Championship job, succeed at a Championship club, and then we might see Gareth Ainsworth, the wild thing, in the Premier League.